I'm Timothy.
I'm Lainey.
And we are the Second Chance Foundation. Our mission is to bring hope,
To share stories of resilience and success,
and to offer resources for the currently incarcerated and recently released. This podcast is created to do just that. We had the opportunity recently to visit the great folks at Red Barn Academy and tour their facilities.
We even got to shop in the Red Barn thrift store and enjoy a wonderful meal from Red Barn Chicken.
Thanks to that purchase we made at Red Barn Thrift, we got to see Red BarnMovers at work as well.
Moving that king-size bed and the huge mattress was no small feat, and they even professionally wrapped our outgoing queen-size bed, ready for its new home.
Red Barn Academy is a life skills program based on mutual self-help. The Academy is for anyone with a desire to reinvent their lives, whether homeless, substance abusers, or criminals. If you've had enough pain, enough of the life you've been living, and you're ready to do something truly different, Red Barn Academy can assist you in changing your negative attitude and values.
Through vocational training, education, communication, peer groups, leadership training, job readiness, and continuing care services, Red Barn Academy students learn life and work skills that enable them to lead successful, sober lives.
And we're back.
We're back.
What a story we have for you guys today. We're meeting a guy by the name of Iseli.
Iseli Lotaki.
This guy is so freaking amazing. I would classify him now as a friend. Him and I had spent some really good time talking, and I developed that bond during the course of our conversation, and I am proud to call him a friend. This man has a story.
That's a great story. I'm so excited for you guys to hear this.
Yeah.
You're going to be blown away.
We're not going to tell you too much because we don't want you to give it away. I'm just saying that you want to listen to this guy. We had a really good time, Red Barn Academy, and they made us feel at home and made us feel welcome. And this place is dear to my heart. This story will warm your heart. This man was leading a life that was very troubling and going down a path, and now he is saving lives.
He was going down a really good path to start with. He had a really promising future. I won't give it away, but
yeah, don't tell too much. Don't. It's tempting, but
oh man.
Without further ado, let me introduce you to my friend Iseli
Lotaki. A quick editor's note on the podcast you are about to listen to. John Tervord, the program director at Red Barn Academy, graciously allowed us to use his office for our on-site podcast interviews. You will likely hear some background noises during this podcast as staff and students carried on the daily activities in the offices and spaces around us. We did our best to minimize these distractions, but work can't stop just because we're recording a podcast. Your patience is appreciated.
Hi, I'm Timothy Alderman. I'm here with Iseli Lotaki, and we're going to talk a little bit about his story at the Red Barn Academy. Iseli, how are you today?
I'm doing good.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'm super glad you're here with us. Thank you for joining us. Let's get into the nitty gritty. Tell me a little bit about your childhood. Did you grow up with a loving family? Did you have a struggling family? Tell me a little bit about how you grew up.
I was born in American Samoa. My dad was married to my mom. While he had my mom pregnant, he had two other women pregnant at the same time. He took myself and left my mom in American Samoa and then told her that he was going to move to America and then basically get settled and then send for her. Of course, things changed. He ended up getting with someone else, and then my mom found that out, so then she came down there to California and picked me up. Of course, I don't remember any of that stuff. From there to 5 years old, I didn't know. Like, I moved from California to Hawaii to Utah to Texas. That was too young for me to remember any of that. So my mom raised me pretty much as a single mother. Of course, I recall her having guys come over here and there and stuff like that, and I remember being left alone a lot. There was other times where she would take off to work, and then of course I would roam the streets. She would come home, and then of course she wouldn't find me, and then I would be next door, but she would always call the cops. I remember that, and the cops would be looking all over for me, and then she would be looking all over for me, and then she'd find me next door. So like I didn't have a father figure for sure. I always wanted one. I ended up getting babysat by my aunt and uncle, and I liked that just because there was like both parents there, and then of course they had a son also who was really young. From there, I remember going to like Kmart a lot.
How old were you at this time?
So I was probably like 7, 8, maybe. You know, okay, I remember going to the store a lot by myself and stealing. I knew the difference between right and wrong because, of course, they taught me, right? But like, I just enjoyed, I wanted things and I knew how to do it, you know, even at a young age. There was consequences, of course. My aunt and uncle were really strict, but they were loving parents. I remember there was a lot of issues with their marriage. My uncle cheated on my aunt quite a bit. So like, I was forced to kind of grow up because I remember going with my aunt a lot and following my uncle to places, right? Because we had this place called Kalapu. It's called like a kava place. So like, he owned one of those, and it's where they would go and drink the traditional drink, kava. They would drink like all night.
Was this like a social club?
It's kind of like a social thing, but a lot of the older Polynesian men, you know.
I am familiar with this. We have one of those down here in Salt Lake.
Yes.
On 4th South or something like that.
I'm pretty sure you're familiar with it.
Yeah, I am familiar.
Tastes like dirt.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they have this thing called the kumete, which is like a big old bowl. And then they usually have, you know, a toa. Toa is the person who's serving, usually a woman, of course. And then after that, they pass like a cup made out of coconut, you know, and then everyone drinks it. And of course, it gives you kind of a buzz. That was one of the things that my dad or my uncle always did. He drank a lot of kava, and then he would work. Of course, he worked really hard and things of that sort. But he also, his addiction was women. I've never seen him drink. I've never seen him do drugs or anything like that. And he was a good dad, provider, all those things. But that was his downfall, was women. Right. And I remember being forced to kind of grow up fast just because my aunt would follow him everywhere, you know, and catch him in the act. She would call him and tell him, you know, what are you doing? And he would claim he's doing this. And then, of course, we would catch him doing that. And then I remember him being really disrespectful to her and putting her in timeout, so to speak. My aunt took the abuse when it came to that. I would see them argue, and she would always tell me that the only reason she's staying with him because she doesn't want to take away another father figure away from me, just because she wants me to have a home, you know, a loving home. You know what I mean? But like, it was still hard because I knew the things that were going on. So like, I remember her venting to me a lot, you know, and I'm like 7, 8 years old, and I was just like, okay. The way I found my escape from when it came to what was going on in my home was sports. Sports was my thing. You know, like, I was really good at that. I excelled in that. School, not so much. I did enough just to get by.
So are you in high school now?
No, I'm more in elementary, junior high, and all that. And then, of course, junior high, you know, like, I really did really well in sports. Then of course, high school.
What was your sport? Football?
Football. You know, I was pretty good at basketball too. Yeah. I was just really competitive. When it came to stuff like that, I remember I would always push myself to do everything. I always did extra, all those things when it came to sports. I would always go to church, or we would always, you know, my mom or my aunt, she would always try to take us to church and, of course, let me get involved in those type of things. And then, of course, we met a lot of the other poly kids, and they were kind of troublemakers, a lot of them. So, of course, we would go to church, and then we'd sneak off and do other things. Probably started drinking and smoking and all that, like when I was in 9th grade. Once I started doing those things, it wasn't really like a downhill thing. I was just able to do those things and still play sports.
So you're in 9th grade, you started drinking and smoking.
Yeah.
What led you to drinking? How did you first get introduced to that?
Well, trying to be cool, I guess, more than anything, because I had like my older cousins, you know, and most of them were gang members. And then, of course, the ones that partied and all that. And I always was the one that would try to tag along, do what they did. But I still was like living this double life.
So this is the older group,
Yes.
the more established, and you're the younger kid. You're following along, and you want to be part of the crowd. Yeah. Okay. And
so like, I was like the kid who was really good in sports, but I also wanted to party and hang out with those guys just because it was cool to me. You know, it's family. Yeah. You know, and they treated me like family, of course. I was exposed to that type of environment, and I liked it just because there's girls, there's all that.
Sure.
So a lot of the OGs, they would try to push me to go, you know, like, no, you need to go to practice. You need to go to, you know, go do your sports. Like, quit trying to be around us. Yeah. You know, some of them tried to push me away, but I kept going. You know, of course, I just kept gravitating towards that lifestyle, I guess. Like, I felt like I had a pretty good childhood. I felt like I had all the things that I needed because my aunt worked hard, my uncle worked hard. And anytime, like, I remember being the guy that had the Jordans and stuff like that. We lived in the ghetto. I was the one that had the video, the game system, the Nintendo, the Super Nintendo, all that. Anytime something came out, my aunt tried to get it for us.
So you weren't stealing this. This is your aunt was providing.
Yeah, she provided those things. It was just when I was stealing more was when I was younger. And it's like I knew the difference, but like I just wanted things. Like I remember G.I. Joes, Thundercats, all those things, and I would steal them. And then I would bring it. I remember riding a bike or like going inside Kmart and grabbing a bike and then riding it out. Like the security guy, me and him knew each other quite well. And
he sees you coming in.
Yeah, he already knew. And I would still pretend, and I would go there with my aunt, and he would like follow us around, and then my aunt would like scream at him and all that. And then because he could never catch me, you know what I mean? Like, of course he had assumptions, and it was pretty obvious what I was doing, Like there's one time the security guard chased me, right? Our apartments was behind Kmart, and this is in Texas too. He chased me, and I ran straight to the basketball courts because that's where all the homies were all hanging out, right? All my older cousins and stuff like that. He got jumped, and I felt bad. They whooped him pretty badly, because I was like, he's trying to kill me. He's trying to kill me, like they didn't know what was going on. They just saw this older man chasing me,
right.
So like, of course they went in protective mode and they jumped him, man. And like, I felt bad because I remember going to Kmart a couple times later on, a couple weeks down the road, and he had a cast on and all those things. And eventually I ended up getting banned from Kmart. I was stealing BB guns, all those type things.
So fast forward, you've Kmart, you got banned from him.
No.
You're living this young life. You're drinking. You're smoking cigarettes.
No. And still playing sports.
And still playing sports, trying to balance everything. You're in high school. When did you start experimenting with heavier drugs?
When I was a sophomore, some stuff that like we were all huffing. It's called Octane Booster. I don't know if you ever.
I have.
Yeah, we called it Tolly. I would do that. Then of course we'd smoke weed, and then acid came around. We had this thing called Chiva.
Right.
I didn't know what I was doing, but like I experimented with anything that was
Chiva,
in front
isn't
of
that
us.
heroin?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I guess that's what they call it.
Yeah.
In Texas they just call it that. Apparently that's what it was.
And in California, a lot of places they call it, and especially in the Mexican cultures and the polycultures and stuff like that.
Yeah. And then, of course, in high school, I remember, like, even my senior year, right? I remember doing quite a bit of coke. Like, coke was really big. I ended up transferring from this one high school called Trinity High School in Euless. It was where all the polys went. I went there my sophomore year, and then I ended up transferring to LD Bell. And LD Bell was the rival. It's where all the white kids were at. My parents took me out of that situation, just because they thought that, just because of me always getting in trouble and stuff like that. And then she would always say, well, those poly kids are bad, like, even though we're Tongan, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, she would always sit there and say, they're bad. They're bad news. They're just going to keep getting you in trouble. So, of course, she transferred me to LD Bell. All the white kids, they got more money. They have vehicles, all those things. So then
and a lot more drugs flowing around. Yeah.
So then I started toying with all the coke and all those things, and I remember even graduation, barely even going because we were so high, you know what I mean? And it was just a bad situation. And I had my family fly in from Hawaii, and they're all waiting for me to come out, and I already took off. That was just the type of person I was. Like, I really didn't care. I cared, but I didn't when it came to the lifestyle, because I enjoyed the partying and all those things, right? When it came to sports, of course, I was heavily recruited by quite a bit of colleges.
So did you get a chance to go to college?
I ended up going to a Division II school. So I originally committed to Texas A&M, but my SAT scores wasn't up to par. So National Signing Day was like February 14th or 5th or something. I can't remember the exact day. My SAT score wasn't up to par. I ended up going to a Division II school, Southwest Baptist University out in Missouri.
What'd you study?
I actually was taking the easy route. I was doing PE because I was like, I was going to be a coach.
Right, physical therapy is a lot of what
Yeah. So, but with that situation, that's when I first started catching charges. I had an injury to a child charge. I was 17. this one kid who was 16, right? He was picking on my little brother. And my little brother came and told me. So I went over there and then I had a conversation with him and then he started mouthing off, right? And then his girlfriend said something smart to me and I says, well, you need to mind your own business, right? She ended up kicking me in my private.
Oh, man.
I grabbed her and I slammed her on the ground. And then he swung on me and then I beat him up.
Right.
So in Texas, they can try you as an adult at 17.
Yeah.
So that's the charge I got, was injury to a child. So my uncle was actually one of the cops. He showed up and then like he yelled at me and screamed at me and told me like, what are you doing? What are you thinking? And I was just like, you know, like they were the ones picking on my little brother. Of course, I just went over there and tried to have a conversation and then they got mouthy and I just reacted off of what they did. You know, that was my justification.
Sure.
The cops there didn't arrest me or anything like that. They just told me that if I wanted to, I can come down to the station and make a statement later on. And of course, I didn't go. I was like, well, why do I gotta go? You know?
Give me a choice. I ain't going down there.
And then it was like probably a month later, man. The mother of my first kid, we were at the bowling alley. One of the cops that was there, he was following me around the bowling alley. And then after that, he ended up arresting me. And then
For that?
For all that.
So the prosecutors reviewed it and decided that charges should come, and so they put a warrant out.
Yeah, they put a warrant out, yep.
So you're 17 at this time, right? And you got adult charges.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I ended up getting those charges, and then I got on probation and all those things. So then they transferred all my probation to Missouri. Long story short, the reason why I tell you that is just because with the physical education that I was trying to go into that field, my advisor at the college was telling me that I need to change the field that I was trying to go into because of the injury to a child. Even though it's not,
you know,
or anything like that, it still looks like that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just the charge, you know, because I remember going to court and all that, and they're like telling me the factual whatever, and they're like, injury to a child, and
you
sounds
never
bad.
get on as a coach with that charge on your record. Right?
That's what she said. You know. So anyways, I ended up changing my field that I was going into, and then
what'd you change it to?
Business management.
Okay, which is a lot harder.
Yeah,
because now you actually got to study.
Yeah, for sure. And when I got to college, it's like that same lifestyle that I liked was out there, and it was in a bigger, you know what I mean?
Right,
it was just like,
and you're in a Division II school where the partying is a little heavier.
Heavier than high school.
Right.
Yeah. So like I enjoyed that, and I just kept doing that, trying to play football, try to, you know, all those things.
Did you graduate?
No, I did not.
Okay, so how long did you last through the college?
2.5 years. I ended up getting in trouble out there.
Tell me about that.
So there was a guy, he was actually on my football team. He ended up, because I was selling weed out there because weed was really expensive. So I ended up doing something to this one guy, and I ended up being the guy. He basically, during spring break, he like broke into my house. He tried to rob. So I found that out. I ended up coming back. He showed up to my door one day, and then he like addressed me by my other name. And he asked me if I had marijuana. Coming from him and the way our lingo is, it just sounded.
He's got a recorder on.
It sounded fishy to me, right?
Yeah.
So, anyways, I grabbed him by his afro and pulled him inside the house. I had a pistol, beat him up pretty badly, and I threw him out of the house. And I called his girlfriend, and I told her to come and pick him up. Later on that night, I called my mom, and I told her I made up some BS about me being hurt and all these things because I did get hurt in football before that, but I just made it sound worse than what it was, and I caught a flight home the next day and never went back. My roommate kept calling me how many times. This was a situation I just ran from pretty much.
Yeah. So then you moved back to Texas. Whatever happened to that charge you got when you were 17?
I ended up doing probation and all those things.
Okay.
Completed the probation, and then it was supposed to like come off my record, but of course it ended up not.
Because you had other things that
Yeah.
So you had a plea in abeyance or whatever. So if you completed all your stuff, it had come off, but you didn't stop seeing in trouble, so it never came off.
Yeah.
So you struggled. You went through college. You did 2.5 years in college.
Yeah.
Some real bad things happened, and then you moved back to Texas.
Yeah.
What happened then?
I went back home, And then, like, I felt like I was a disappointment, man, more than anything. Mm-hmm. You know, like, I was the guy that was supposed to make it. Like, that was my life goal right there, was to make it to the NFL, or, you know. Yeah, I don't know. I just felt like I let everyone down. That was just the way I was. So then I ended up just working with my dad, moved back home. My mom finally left my dad, you know, or my aunt. Yeah. You know, I keep saying my mom, my dad. Your uncle. My aunt, yeah. Yeah. So she finally left him. She moved out to Australia. She moved out there.
And you didn't go with her?
No. So my uncle stayed there. Our relationship became strong because he was the only one there now. Right. You know, so of course, and I have my little brother, you know, which is his son. So he was always there by himself. He was catching charges too. And he was probably, he was pretty young. He was like 9th grade. They were doing a lot of shady stuff. Mm-hmm. You know, he got really into the gang thing. Of course, I was a bad example for him because I would always bring him around all the things that we were doing.
So you're running around with the guys.
Yeah.
You're getting high. What kind of, you're on coke and are you doing any meth?
All those things? Not yet.
Okay.
Like probably a couple years later, then meth came into the picture.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
That one right there, you know, like I was always able to. So when I was doing other things, I was what we call functioning addict, right? I was able to still show up because my dad owned the tree company. That was the cool thing about him, is like, so that's where our relationship became strong, because he really never like gave me advice or things like that. He started becoming a dad to me. Yeah. We had like those long talks and all those things. He didn't look like he was disappointed compared to, like, you know, all my other family members type thing, right?
Did your uncle discipline you or anything?
Yes, so the way he disciplined me was more the belt, and then when I got older, you know, like he used his hands.
I can relate to that. You know, a lot of us went through that when we were childhood.
Of course, it was normal.
and in their generation,
yes,
that was how their fathers dealt with them. Yes. So we're used to it, but the butt whooping, I wish I could say other things, but the butt whooping, it didn't really help. We got immune to that.
Not with me, at least. Yeah. You know, like, of course I got mad. Of course I yelled or whatever. And my aunt would always try to save me in those situations, because sometimes he was too wild on me. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But, like, I believe with everything in my whole heart, I deserved every one of it. Sure. You know, just because of how I was. I was hard-headed.
So you're in your 20s now. You're running around in the crowd. Your brother is
catching
this. He's getting familiar with this.
My aunt took off to Australia.
And your aunt's in Australia, and now you're starting to use meth.
Yeah, somewhat. Yes. And then, like, he's catching charges, right? My little brother's catching charges.
He looks up to you.
Yes, he looks up to me for sure. He goes and commits a few crimes, right, that ends up catching him a 20-year sentence. He gets a 20-year sentence, and he's 17.
Wow, that's a rough one.
He was 17
in Texas
years old.
Too. That's a rough one.
He's 17 years old, so he did some dumb things. Yeah. Caught 20 years, and it was an aggravated charge, you know, because it was with a gun. I remember that broke our family. My aunt came back. She still blames herself, because whenever she dropped me off at college, because she told me that, like, whenever I go to college, she's gonna leave him, and I didn't really think that she would ever do it, but she did. And my brother, he was left home alone a lot. Mm-hmm. My dad was always working double shifts, and if he wasn't working, he was at the kava spot. My parents kind of blamed themselves for everything that happened with him. And of course, I blamed myself too for a long time, just because I was a horrible example. I brought him around things, guns, all those things. You know, I exposed all those things in front of him. For him, he just wanted to be cool. He wanted to fit in with us. Even when I went to college, like, he hung out with some of my boys. They taught him how to sell drugs and all those type things. You know what I mean? Just extra stuff that he shouldn't have been doing. That ended up getting him caught up. He caught some other charges first. Yeah, he was just doing a lot of dumb things. And like I said, he ended up getting 20 years. My parents, they put up the house and all those things to try to get a lawyer, because that's what they were offering anyways with a public defender, was 20 years. You know, he should have got 25, because he had 5 counts of which carried 5 to 99. He ended up just getting for 4, but 20 years. So they put up the house, they put up all this just to get a lawyer. Ended up pretty much losing a lot. My dad ended up, like, moving to Fort Worth and got something smaller, had to downsize, all those things.
Did you move with him?
I had the mother of my kids down there with me then.
So now you're moved off in your own.
Yeah.
You're living with your mother,
And
your
that's
kids.
when I was
and you're off the hook now.
Oh, I'm off the chain just because I lost my brother, this, that, he's locked up and this. And then it's just so many excuses that ran through my head that justified my actions, right? You
right.
know
Everybody else is at fault for what you're going through.
Exactly. I was always the victim, man.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Like, and
we do that, don't we?
Oh, yeah, we do.
Yeah.
And it sucks to say. And, like, my ex-wife to this day, man, like, she still thinks that, like, you know, of course, my family blames her and all those things because, of course, I painted this beautiful picture of how evil she was,
right.
you know, and that's why I'm doing drugs. So everybody feels sorry for me.
Right.
Everybody, you know what I mean? But, like, there was so much more, like, that I cheated on her while she was pregnant. I did all these nasty things that, like, I have girls. I have 4 daughters, right? I would beat up, you know, a person for that. Like, to do that to my kids, you know.
But
like,
you did it, and it was their fault.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I never realized that till I came here to Red Barn. Like, even though I knew it in my head, but, like, I just...
When we're in our addictions, we're at the worst part of our time.
Yeah.
And we don't think clearly.
No.
You know, they're having the drugs cloud our brain. So at that point, we're not responsible for anything that happens to us in our head.
Yeah.
It's always everybody else's fault. We don't get to see that. I wish there was some way for us to have clarity when we're going through that. But hindsight is 20/20, right?
Yeah.
One thing I always tell people is our past, it's chiseled in the stone. There's nothing we can do about it. It is what it is, right? It's there.
Yeah.
Our future, though, is a blank canvas. We have a painting.
I like that.
When you're going through Red Barn, you're putting your base coat on that. And you're designing your future. It can be whatever you decide it to be by the choices that you make.
Of course. And
you have made some extraordinarily good choices. And now you're in a good place. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's not go there yet. But and I do this in every episode. It's okay. I'm like, I want to, because I like to put that out there, because I want people to understand that no matter how bad life seems, we can change it.
Yeah.
We have to start now, though. We we can't, if we're sitting in prison and we're getting high and we're doing all these things, we're not going to change when we get out. No. We're just going to keep going with the same routine. But if we take a time, we stop what we're doing now, and we make today the first day of our change, we're going to start making that. All right. So your life is in turmoil. You're off the hook.
Yeah.
And you're commit felonies that are going to land you in hot water.
Pretty much. I just keep getting caught up. Not too long after I went to prison.
Did you get further into the culture while you're in prison?
No.
So you did good while you're in prison?
Yeah, actually, yeah.
And that's sometimes that's the story. People will go into, they get locked up, they'll go into prison, they'll do super good.
They get
and they get out and right back to it.
Yeah. Well, in there, like, of course, I was reading the scriptures, I was doing all these things, right? Push-ups, of course, because that's the thing about prison, right? That's the thing about jail, is like when we first get there, that's what we're trying to do, is build this outer shell. That's what we start. We start to build this outer coat of who we want to be, and we look good when we get out because, like, we're all tattooed up or whatever, the case may be, and look strong, but we're still broken on the inside.
Yeah.
We
never fixed any of the problems.
Never. I thought I knew. I had great intentions. I was going to do this, I was going to do that, or whatever the case may be, but I didn't know how to cope. I didn't know how to handle life. So, of course, when I got out, I was right back. Like, I did good for, like, a little bit, and then it was just right back. That's just how I cope, man. I've always altered my mind. That was just the way I live. Like, me being sober is crazy, because being able to handle situations now, it's cool because, like, of all the things that I've done here, like, I know I'm probably fast forwarding too much, but
so let me slow you down for a second. Yeah. So I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about your prison times, but so you're in and out of prison, right?
Yeah.
You got to do that a few times.
Yeah.
And you're struggling, you're going through things, you're trying to figure out.
This is in Texas.
Right.
So
right.
I'm in prison there, right?
So you're in and out of prison in Texas. You're struggling, you're trying to figure out where life is. What brought you to Utah? I
got out again. Then I was just like, you know what? I wrote my ex, the mother of my kids now. I wrote her and I told her I was course, like we're pleading. I'm manipulating, basically.
Right. You're telling her whatever she wants to hear to get what you want.
All the things that I want, like, so then she has my back. Of course, she just wants things to work out. She wants the father of her kids to be there. In the moment, I believe I wanted that. In the moment, I really did. But when I sit and like take a, zoom out and look at it now, it's just like, like I was a piece of crap. Like I did that and I used her and I did all these things that because I knew I could, like she's never experienced drugs, alcohol, any of that lifestyle other than being with me.
And so she's vulnerable.
Yes.
She's going to believe whatever you tell her.
Of course. And then I get out. 4 days later, I moved to Utah. Because I'm like, man, I got to get away from Texas.
Sure.
I have to,
Get away from the crowd.
From that, yeah, because I wanted to start all over. But what do we all know, like, you can't run away from you because you're the problem.
Yeah, you're going with it. So.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that because I'm always doing this. I'm pointing at everyone like, you're the problem. What do you mean?
So you think you're running away from the problem, and you brought the problem with you in your suitcase.
And of course, I'm different, or I thought I was.
Right.
You're
unique.
I'm unique.
Yes.
Like, what do you mean? You don't have anything going for you after this. I do. I have family. I have support. That's my mindset, right?
Right. So you come to Utah.
I have potential, and I should have been in the NFL.
Right.
So like,
Darn story. It's everybody else's fault. I'm not there.
Yeah, but it is what it is, right?
So you moved to Utah.
Moved to Utah. Did well here for 5 years. We were going to church. Of course, I was being dad. I was still living a double life. I was still getting weed and all those things. I was still going and meeting with my cousin. I had and one of my cousins that from Texas, moved here to Utah. So it was cool. I was like, heck yeah. So went and hung out with him, smoked, drink, all that stuff. Still going to church, all these things, right?
So you're playing
living this double life.
Right.
Yeah. The Book of Mormon in one pocket and the bull rag
in the other one. Right? Gotcha.
So eventually, things got hectic, of course, and at work, one of my coworkers, I told him what my kryptonite was, which is meth.
Right.
Meth takes your soul. I believe that 100%. Like, and it makes you, your decision maker is broke after messing with that.
Let me see if I can guess how this scenario went.
Yeah.
So you told your buddy at work your kryptonite.
Yeah.
And he says, "What, this?"
Not right at that moment, but 5 years down the road.
Right.
He texted me like at 3:00 in the morning and was like, "Hey, I got some shit." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" You know what I mean? And I'm over there. I went and changed the clocks, so and all that. And then and my wife at the time, she was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm going to work." And of course she looks at the time and the time's changed. So, and it's only 3:00 in the morning and I'm burning off.
Yeah.
I grabbed some stuff and I burn off, and then it was just all she wrote, man.
Yeah.
It doesn't take me much.
No, once you get a taste, you're back off it.
And of course I tried to hide it. And I was doing
it's
this,
hard to
I was
hide.
doing
Meth
that.
is hard to hide.
I'm over there mowing the yard with the headlamp at 10:00 at night, vacuuming the ceiling. Like, it's just out of control, bro.
Yeah. And she's seeing this.
And she's seeing that. She's like, and she's actually like, oh, well, at least he's getting, work done. You know what I mean?
But she doesn't know you're using it.
But she doesn't know I'm using it all. Yeah. No, but she experienced it while I was in Texas, for a brief moment or whatever. Yeah. But a lot of the times whenever we're in Texas, whenever I did the stuff, I always left the house, so she didn't ever really see me the way I was on it.
Because you're
inside.
sticking around this time.
Yeah.
She doesn't know. She's thinking you just all of a sudden got motivated.
Yeah, I'm motivated. So she's cool with it. She's like, she's clean. He's doing what he's supposed to, and he's going to work and all those things. And then of course, I went from never being late to work all the time, sleeping in, all these things. And my boss notices this stuff, and it's his son that's the one who
hooked you up.
Yeah, hooked me up.
And he knows what his son's doing. So it's going piece and piece.
Yeah, and like. So I got this job. I work for the masonry company, and I'm just going there, running around, like acting out. And of course, it was okay in the beginning, but then the addiction became, really hard. Like, it was just expensive. Put it that way. Yeah.
Especially you're not working now because you lost your job.
And then I got coworkers, but I got other coworkers. No, my boss kept giving me chances. because he knew the potential of how I was at work.
Yeah.
But, and anyways, or he just maybe had a just soft spot for me,
Right.
But I know for me, when I work, I'm a beast, not to blow myself up, but I work hard.
I can see that.
So working hard wasn't something I learned from Red Barn. Working hard is something I've always knew how.
I've known a lot of polys, and most of them are like that. They're like the Mexicans. They're a beast. They get in there and they get their job done. They work hard, and I can see why your boss would want to keep you.
Yes.
But so
he
all
kept
this
enabling me.
Yeah, he's enabling you, and your family not saying anything is doing the same thing. But
of course,
in reality, are you harming them by sticking around doing that? Well, I mean, how is your drug use affecting your relationship with your girl? How is it affecting your job and the work that you're doing there?
I wasn't showing up.
So your boss is
so my boss is starting to see, slowly getting worse, right? Mm-hmm. Of course, that's how it usually happens. And then after that, next thing you know, I'm getting more things, getting more. So then I'm hooking up guys at work.
So now you're selling it.
Yeah. Now, just so I can have extra,
Yeah.
And then
so it's paying for your habit.
Yeah.
Right.
And then after that, and I didn't think anything of it. I was like, shoot, it's cool. I kept networking and getting more.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
So you look back, the people that you're selling to.
Yeah.
Are you thinking what kind of damage you're doing to them?
Honestly, at the time, I thought I was
you're doing them a favor.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I'm hooking them up. I'm not just...
You're giving them good deals.
Giving them good deals, and I'm thinking I'm the best guy in the world. Right. I really do. Now that
you're sober and you can think about it, are you thinking about the damage that those drugs caused to their families and their
there's
life?
a huge ripple effect.
Yeah, you get what I'm saying. The ripple effect. And us as addicts, we don't think about that.
No.
When we're doing this stuff, we don't care. Yeah. All we care about is our immediate gratification. But if we can look back and at... I did a program called Hope in prison here, and one of the things we had to do was we had to do an impact on others letter.
Yeah.
And I had to sit there and look at my actions and what they did to everybody around me. I had to look at the people I sold drugs to. And then I had to look at, their families.
Their families.
And their children. And their mothers and fathers and their work. So the effects, the things that we're doing have such a widespread effect that it is, it goes far and far. And we don't get that as addicts.
No.
But we learn this when we get clean. So so you're going through it, you're doing it, you're off the hook again.
Yeah.
What happened?
And then I ended up getting, of course I got some charges. They ended up raiding a hotel, all that stuff, right? Caught me with a good amount. I ended up going to jail, of course, fighting my charges. I ended up staying there for 4 months, right? And then after that, I ended up getting out, doing probation, completing probation, all those things. Of course, I thought in my mind I'm going to do good this time, and I did well. And then, of course, right back, it didn't take me long. I probably ran into someone somewhere, and that's all it usually took for me is running into someone. And someone saying something, hey, can you get some stuff or whatever. And I enjoyed, honestly, my addiction was more being the guy.
Association.
Yeah.
Who we know, who we hang out with.
Yeah.
These are important things. Because I'm a social user as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was the drugs or the scene that I was more addicted to.
Yeah.
The girls, the hanging out with the crew, and being the guy with the hustle.
Yeah.
Because the more drugs you had, the more money you had, the more people looked up to you.
The respect.
Yeah, you're the big guy.
Yeah.
And they didn't really respect you.
No.
They didn't care about you.
No.
They cared about what you could give them.
Yeah.
And that's an important thing. So I once heard it said, you are the top 5 people you hang out with. If you're hanging out with drug dealers, prostitutes, and criminals, what are you doing? That stuff, right?
Yeah.
If you're hanging out with lawyers, doctors, and politicians or people that are uplifting members of the community, successful in whatever way, then what are you doing?
No.
Right?
No.
So that's an important lesson. And you're hanging around with the people that are doing drugs. You got off probation. Probation's easy. You know how to manipulate.
Yeah.
You're a master manipulator.
Easy.
We can do that, right? Jump through the hoops. Get off probation. Now you no longer have a tail.
Yeah.
You don't have to piss for anybody.
No.
And then you're right back off the hook.
Exactly. And then here,
then what happens?
Utah likes to give you a lot of chances. The stuff that I think I was doing here, I should have been locked away a long time ago.
Long time ago.
Guarantee. And then also me being a repeat offender, and then also my record from Texas. But that stuff never really carried over here. I don't know if it ever played a factor, but I always let my APP officer know and all those things, so they would always say, you're going to go to prison. So I'd go 4 months, get out. Then after that, I did probation, whatever. And then I ended up getting locked up again. And I was supposed to go to prison that time. And then, of course, they put me on probation. And then I did it 3 times. And then after that, this time, I ended up catching quite a bit of charges.
2% of our population is incarcerated currently.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say probably at least 65% of those are drug-related crimes.
Yes.
From my experience and all the time I've done more than 26 years inside.
Yeah.
It's most people in prison are there for drug-related crimes.
No.
It's interesting that you bring that up because Utah is a very conservative state and they want to give chances. They want to try to help you. Is locking them up in prison the solution if they're addicts and their crimes are a direct result of their addiction? Is prison the solution?
In Texas, prison is the solution. We have 107 prisons.
Yeah.
Here in Utah, you guys have 1 or 2.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the solution over there.
Right, but is it fixing things?
Is it fixing things? I'm grateful that I didn't get to that I didn't get sent to prison because, of course, I'm doing something different now. I like the fact that you guys are giving more chances here, but does it help? Sometimes, of course, you know what I mean?
Well, I guess the question I'm asking is there other solutions besides prison? Because
I believe what we're doing.
Right, what you're doing in Red Barn.
Yeah.
And I think that this program, the Other Side Academy, and programs like that are huge and are helping people. But here's my question. So they're criminalizing an addiction. And in some circles, people believe addiction is a mental disease.
No.
I believe that addiction, when it happens, or when you use drugs, it's a choice.
No.
You're choosing to use those drugs. And then as you become addicted to those drugs, that choice is taken away from you. It's no longer a choice because you have a chemical addiction.
Yeah.
So it's a mental thing. I guess the question that is out there is, what's the best way to deal with that? And the reason I'm asking this question is because people are going to listen to this podcast. And I want this conversation to start. What is the best way to deal with these addictions? Is it mass incarceration? Because oftentimes people that go to prison for relatively minor drug offenses come out hardened criminals.
Yeah.
So they're not really learning how they're not
rehabilitating.
From going to prison. Right. They're not rehabilitating. They're going out in there with minor drug offenses. They're clicking up with gangs and they're coming out with hardened criminals. Now they're doing crimes that are people crimes and they're creating bigger situations.
Yeah.
I think the conversation needs to start in society. What are the best ways to help people? The Second Chance Foundation, what we want to do is we want to be a voice for reform. We want to create a criminal justice system where we look at ways to help people make better choices. Because it's all about choices. Once you go to prison and you become clean, it's all about choices from that point forward, right? Mm-hmm. You're sitting in prison, you're clean. Well, hopefully you're clean. There's so many drugs.
That's how it is in our... Yeah.
But hopefully you're making the choice to be clean because it is choice. You've been off drugs for months before you're introduced to it again. So from that point on, it's your choice. What do you want to do in life? But how do we give them better choices? Because the options right now are not better. They get out in a halfway house, and the halfway house has got more drugs than the streets do. And you got a lot of people who don't want to change.
Like a lot of the guys that come here, right? Of course, a lot of the younger guys, for me, I feel like they don't have enough hurt or pain to really want to change. They're just using this place as what it is, an alternative to jail or prison. And a lot of people do come here and then just burn off. I don't know. I'm glad there's places like this because I would have never done a program. In my mind, like, I don't need a program. That's what I thought. But I'm so grateful that I was given the opportunity to come here.
You're off the hook. You're doing things.
No.
You got off probation. Where you at now? What happens?
So then I got caught up again.
Not
too long after.
And you're looking at prison
again.
Or what led you to Red Barn?
What led me to Red Barn? So we had another student that was in there, or actually a person that was a prospective student who was accepted to this program. He actually came through this program also with me. So I went and saw my lawyer. My lawyer told me with all my charges, he told me I was facing, he said I had 56 charges and I was facing, he says if they ran everything consecutively, you would be facing 107 years is what he told me. And that was a kick in the, it was a kick in the groin and I cried. I teared up like a baby at that moment because I was just like, how did I end up, it was like one of those moments where I was just like, how did I end up here? Because like in my mind, I didn't think I was doing that bad, but things were just stacking up and I didn't realize that because at the time it was like COVID, all that stuff, right? And I was committing crimes and getting caught up, but they were letting me right back out. And then of course, like later on I found out, like they were just building a case. Because I was in Wyoming, I got caught up there and then all that stuff and they transported me there and I came back here. I just didn't understand how my life ended up like that. And I was just like, wow, and I teared up and all that. And I came back to the sections and my buddy at the time, he's like, you good? I was like, and I didn't want to talk about it. And I'm trying to like, man up. I'm a man. I'm trying to man up because like, you don't cry in prison. You don't cry in jail. You're a man, like, and I'm just sitting there like just lips are quivering, all those things. I'm going away forever. Yeah, and I was just like, bro, I'm gonna go to prison forever, And he's like, well, why don't you write Red Barn? And I'm like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? And then he hands me this brochure. I just look at it and I just briefly look at it and I was like, I'm not doing a program. And I told him straight up, I was like, I'm not doing a program.
So you got two options you're looking at. You got 107 years in prison or 2 years
I didn't know
in a country club.
Yeah, but I didn't know that it was an alternative. I didn't know any of that stuff. Yeah. I took the brochure from him and of course I went put it in my cell. I kind of like looked at it and I was like, that's stupid. 2 weeks later, he asked me again and I was just like, no, I haven't. And he's like, will you please just read it and write them, man? You never know, like this might be your only chance. And that's what he said, bro. And I said exactly what you just said. 2 years or 107 years. You tell, like they're going to allow, right? But in my mind, I was like, they're never going to let me do that. They're not going to allow me to do that. Guarantee it, and I kept saying that. And he's like, well, just write them and see what you see. And then I ended up writing, of course, I didn't think anything of it. I wrote it, I sent it. Next time I saw my lawyer, I told him, and he laughed. He's like, yeah, right. He's like, they're not going to allow you to do that. They want you locked up.
Little did you know that if Red Barn accepts you, they fight for you.
And they do, bro.
Yeah.
Like
they go to your court hearing.
Every court hearing. Yeah. I'm the guy that does it now. Yeah, like I help out with that.
Yeah, like they go to your court hearing and they speak on your behalf. Yes. And they believe in you.
They do.
They fight for you.
and I never knew that. And I was just like, and so I had to get 5 judges to okay me to come here, 5 different judges and 5 prosecutors.
Is it fair to say Red Barn saved your life?
Red Barn saved my life and I was given a golden opportunity, man.
Right. How long you been here?
3 years and 3 months. So 39 months.
Best thing ever happened to you.
Best thing, man.
You convinced 5 judges to give you a chance.
To give me a chance.
Those 5 judges agreed upon it, and you came to a program. Now, this program isn't for everybody.
No, it's not. It really isn't.
Yeah, but it was for you.
It was for me.
And it saved your life. And you were the worst of the worst. You were bad.
I believe I wasn't the worst of the worst, but I believe, yeah.
You was pretty bad.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
107 years.
Yeah.
So, and that is a story. That is something people need to think of. I'm facing 107 years. Yeah. And I got a chance at salvation to change my life. Yeah. And you took it.
And I took it.
Here's a question for you.
Yeah.
How hard was it for you? What kind of culture shock was it for you when you first got here? And how did you get through that?
even given this opportunity, man, to come and do something different, right? I'm not locked up, all these things, right? I got here and it was like, I didn't know what accountability meant. I did not. That wasn't in my vocabulary.
Right.
Honesty was something that, of course, I've stirred away for a long time. So integrity, I didn't know what that meant either.
Right.
You know, like I really didn't. Accountability, integrity. And then when I was explained what it meant, I was like, oh, so be a snitch. I was
right,
like, you want me to go against what I believe? And it was so hard for me to buy in. Just
you
because
had the mentality.
Yes,
you had the prison mentality.
Even being here a week, I made a comment out in the tool bay to another intern, another person that was brand new here. You know, he was talking about accountability and using the process. And I was like, you know what? Don't these guys know that they have to see me in 2 years? Because I'm not a snitch. So if they snitch on me, you know, and like I made that comment to him, and then of course he held me accountable. He went and told, you know, he went and let our leaders know. They reamed me during accountability group and during intern meeting. That was like the beginning of that, like, oh, wow. You know,
so they don't call those haircuts anymore.
No, it's pretty much a haircut.
Yeah.
You know, and I was embarrassed because our program director at the time was Alan Farringer.
I remember.
And he was this little small guy. You know what I mean?
With a big voice.
I lift dumbbells heavier than him.
Yeah.
You know?
With a big voice, though. Yeah.
And he just told me straight up. He was like, you can take your sorry, you know, like, of course, bleep, 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 you know?
Yeah, he's not afraid to cuss at you.
No, not at all. And I was just like, wow. Because he is right. You know, like
Did he ever call you the P word?
He's called me multiple things.
Yeah. He likes to do that. He wants to get a
rise out of you.
Yeah.
You know, and I get it. We've stirred away from those type of verbiage, and of course, you know, but
well, it's good. There's no sense in antagonizing
because
people.
Not everyone can take it. I'm so glad that I was able to experience that, you know, that culture when I first got here, because I don't believe that I would be who I am today. Was it hard? Did I feel disrespected? Yes, I did. Because when somebody raises their tone at me, I feel it. I feel disrespected. Yeah. That's how I used to think.
And you want to defend your honor.
Yeah. What do you mean? Like, I didn't mean that.
Who
That's
do you
not
think
what
you
I
are?
Yeah. Like, do you know who I am?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's it. Do you know what I do to you?
Like, I can twist you up like a pretzel. You know, like because that's the old mentality, my way of thinking. Because I didn't know how to use the process in a healthy manner. I used the process before here, so to speak, but I did it in an aggressive way. Right. Hey, you're going to clean this or I'm going to do this. Yeah. So now I can address someone now and just be assertive and not have to down them or make them feel any type of way. You know, and I
don't take everything personal.
No, I don't. You can call me a P. You can call me a B or whatever, the PBL thing.
Yeah, whatever.
You know?
I don't even
care.
I'm
good. I'll just look at you like, wow, you're having a bad day, and walk away.
Hope that gets better for you. Yeah. It's not my problem.
It's not my problem. Exactly. Because some of us don't realize that. A lot of times when people do act that way, it's because of that reason, because they're going through it themselves. So I have to always put awareness around that. Now, the skills that I've learned here, the life skills, the coping skills, all the things that I've learned here has helped me in such a way that it's crazy, man. Like, I feel blessed today because of it.
So you graduated the program.
Yeah.
I stayed another year.
Yeah.
And now you work for Red Barn as staff.
Staff.
What do you do here?
I'm a program manager.
Okay.
Actually.
So you're running a lot of the different programs.
Yeah. We have our program director, which is John. And then we have the 3 program managers, which is myself, Nicholas, and Mario. Okay. So we help oversee all the students. Right. I do other things. The master residents, I'm in charge of them too. The master residents are the 3rd year guys. Okay. And when they get to that phase of the program, they're slowly integrating back into their families' lives. They're entitled, so to speak, because of course they just got to do 2 years here. Yeah. And they're staying an additional year on their own free will. So in their mind, they think that they don't have to do certain things. And they have
the nice quarters of
above, you know, which is cool. You know, like
they earn that.
Yeah, they have. Yeah. They have. But sometimes we have to put them in check and let them know, hey, because if you leave here entitled, or you leave here, you know,
thinking the world
you're gonna fall. Guarantee. And I'm so glad I stayed an additional year, because in my 3rd year I went through quite a bit of changes.
Well, because you're no longer required then.
Well, that, and then the pink cloud goes away.
Yeah.
You know, seeing my kids and all that. My ex-wife is allowing me to go and see my kids and have overnights and all that, so I can be there with my kids and all that. Then old things come back into play. Well, remember how you were? Remember what you did? You remember this, and I'm like,
you got a lot of things to outlive.
Yeah. But like, I have to remember that just because I'm here healing and fixing myself doesn't necessarily mean everyone out there, all my family,
forget about everything.
Is going to forget, and they don't.
The reason I started Second Chance Foundation,
yeah,
because I've spent my life in the system.
Yeah,
I've done more than 26 years. I've done prison time in 3 different states and fed bit. I was a dirtbag.
Yeah,
I was the worst of the worst. I wasn't a sex offender. I never killed anybody, but I did everything else in the world that I should not have done.
No,
I destroyed countless lives. I can't change that. You know, what I did is horrible. You know what I mean? What I did is incomprehensible, and I deserve to be in prison for the rest of my life for the things I did.
Yeah.
You know, I do. I've never done time that I did not deserve.
No.
I'm 200% accountable, as Red Barn likes to say. I'm 200% accountable for my actions.
Yeah.
What do? I can't change the past. I've got this canvas, and I painted it, and I'm trying to paint a masterpiece because I want something different. So I've given back. Second Chance Foundation is my effort to make reparations for the life I've lived. I'm going to devote the rest of my life to doing that because I owe that.
No.
Do you feel any sense like that? Is that why you stayed on?
I would have been their janitor if they allowed me to, because that's another day sober. Another day I get to spend with these guys.
The brotherhood.
The brotherhood, yeah. They have not stirred me wrong whatsoever. There's always things that happen here, and of course we get caught in our feelings or whatever the case may be. At the end of the day, we all have the same end goal. These guys actually care. Like, and I didn't believe that, especially when I first got here. I was like, why are they smiling at me like this? You know, I thought it was a setup, you know? Like, I thought everything was like the FBI, the CIA, whatever, were like lab rats, and they're just testing. They're seeing what we're, you know.
That's our drug brain.
Yeah, that's
working.
Of course. Yeah. That's how I felt. I was paranoid. How did I mess up so good is how I think to myself all the time now. If I didn't do all the things I did, I would have never ended up here, and I would have never been the person I am today.
Well, let's compare for a second. So you remember what a jail cell looks like, right?
Oh, yes.
You remember what a prison cell looks like,
yes.
right? You remember what the prison food tastes like?
Yes.
All right. So you have a choice.
Yeah.
Because you know what this food tastes like. And I remember this food. Yeah. I have a belly from... This belly was probably the week I spent here. Yeah. All right? So... You got the food that this place has, or you got prison. No. You've got the comfortable bed here with a nice comfortable pillow, or you got prison. Is that a no-brainer?
That's a no-brainer. You know what's crazy though? Like in my head, for as sick as it was, me coming here, did I know I was going to complete the program? Did I think anything of it or all that? I knew that either way, if I went to prison, I would be okay because I'm comfortable with that.
Sure, you know how to deal with it.
I know how to do it.
Yeah, you know how to kick somebody's butt.
Yeah.
You know how to collect a debt. You know what I mean? And you're tough and you got your policies.
Exactly.
So I can handle that.
Yeah.
Well, I agree. That's why I did 26 years in prison, because I know how to deal with prison.
Yeah.
You know, but this
was hard.
Yeah, the responsibility.
Yeah.
Being accountable for your actions.
No.
But how do you feel today?
I feel good, man. Like I really, really do.
Your life has purpose, right?
Yeah, my life has purpose, and like what you were saying, you're doing. I should be in prison.
Yeah,
I know I should be in prison for the rest of my life, and it's just amazing that I was given this golden ticket.
Yeah,
you know, but then also giving that golden ticket,
and everything you're doing every day, every action you make, you're potentially saving somebody's life.
Yeah,
that's got to feel good.
Oh, it feels good. That's my job.
You have, it's your job
to save lives,
right?
And make someone a good man.
So that I mean, the sense of pride and ownership in that has to be humongous. And an organization that cares, like this one does,
it does.
is amazing. Iseli, you're an amazing guy.
Thank you.
This conversation has been amazing, and I'm really deeply honored to have the opportunity to talk to you and share this. I think great things are coming from you. And I hope in a couple of years you'll allow us to come back and do an update, because I'd like to come see you again.
Yeah.
I believe your story is going to resonate. Wow. Iseli.
Incredible.
What an amazing guy.
I told you.
Right? That was a fun story. So let me give you a little bit. When we first started this, he's like, well, I don't know what to say. You're going to have to lead me. You're going to have to help me along here because I don't know how I'm going to do this. And then we sat him in the chair and oh my goodness, it just came gushing out.
He thought his interview was going to be like 10 minutes long. He's like, what are we going to do for an hour?
Right? Yeah. And he had so much really good stuff to say. Mm-hmm. His story was amazing. This guy, he went through the Texas system, which was a bit different and a lot rougher than what Utah normally is.
That's what I've heard.
Don't get me wrong. Utah can be a rough system, but compared to Texas, it's not all that super great. This guy, he survived it. Despite the odds, he beat it. Everybody was betting against him. And now, look at him. So he's a program manager at the Red Barn Academy. He's not only turned his life around and beat all the odds, but now he is saving lives. He is saving people from themselves, helping them find a new direction. He has a purpose, a very good purpose in life. And so I just, like I said, I'm proud to call this man my friend. This guy really nailed it. I dug it. Yeah, kudos to him. This guy is going to be a hard one for future people to beat. But the next one that we got, Joseph.
Oh, he's a good one.
He's still in his program, doing a phenomenal job. We're not going to tell you too much about him. You want to pay attention because he's the next one. And then the podcast that we're going to do after that, we're giving you a little preview.
Right.
We're going to do a little bit different. We're going to do one about a story about an organization called New Beginnings. This organization is doing amazing things for low income and people coming out of prison. That we're going to talk about it. We're going to open it up a little bit, the conversation a little bit. And this isn't going to be one person. This is going to be the whole group of the founders, all three of them. And we're going to talk about criminal justice reform and treatment centers and the whole infighting that's going on. Mm-hmm. So this is going to be a really good one. You guys got to listen to it, pay attention, and look for it a few weeks down the road.
A lot of good information there.
Yeah. But we're going to do a lot more podcasts like that. So pay attention. We're going to start a whole nother channel. And we're going to do focus on criminal justice in the state. And then we're going to do criminal justice on national level. And we're going to get the conversation going. We want to know your view on what it's going to take to make some changes. So if you're interested in ideas, get on our website, leave us some information, scfut.org, or you can email us at info@scfut.org. Perfect. Email us, send us your ideas, get in this conversation. Big things are happening. We want to be a part of the solution. We want to be a part for change. But to be a part for change, we got to participate. We can't complain about a broken system if we're not willing to be a part of the solution, right?
Right.
So let's be a part of the solution. Till next time, God bless. Hi, guys. So this is Lee. We've been trying to raise money for our legal fees to secure our 501c3. We started a GoFundMe about a month ago. We're at a situation where we really need some financial help. So far, all the money for these podcasts and our stories and everything has come out of my pocket. So if you can log on to our website and click the button for our GoFundMe, help us out. It is scfut.org. We're on a path. We want to make a difference. And, well, I'm working 60 hours a week and I still have bills to pay. So doing the podcast and the nonprofit out of my pocket is getting a little overwhelming for me. I need a little help.
And if these podcasts have touched you, if you've enjoyed listening to them, if you believe in what we're doing, we would really appreciate your financial support. Of course, listening to the podcast, sharing it, talking about it, posting it on social media, all of that is very helpful to get the word out about what we're doing. We would love it. Every little bit helps. It doesn't have to be a ton, but if you have the ability to give us a little bit to help us out, or a lot, we'll take that too.
Well, we'll take whatever you can. I mean, that $5 cup of coffee you were going to have that day, drop $5 into the GoFundMe, or, you got an extra $50, $100, whatever you can do will help out. We sure appreciate it. We're not an organization that's looking for handouts or anything. We want to provide a service, but our podcasts are always going to be free, and they're going into the prison and they're helping a lot of people out. But for us to do that, we have to be able to pay for that. So Thank you for listening to our plea, and God bless. And we will continue to make these wonderful podcasts and keep the mission going.
We'll see you on the next one.